let's try it. And if it doesn't work this year, we'll do it differently next year. That to me is the essence of keeping the honeymoon phase. Like, be willing to try it, and you're never failing. You're just learning. You're gathering data to make a different decision the next year.
Welcome to the Homeschool Perspective, where seasoned homeschooling moms share tips, insights, and resources to empower your homeschool journey. Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Homeschool Perspective podcast. Today, we are going to be chatting about the homeschooling honeymoon phase. You know the feeling. The pencils are freshly sharpened and the curriculum is new and beautiful, and everyone is buzzing with excitement to start anew. But then, inevitably, you hit a snag or you start to feel a bit of fatigue. So how do you prepare for those moments? How do you prepare knowing that that's going to happen? Do you hang in there and push through, or do you switch things up immediately and try something new? Well, we're here to share some tips and some personal stories and some encouragement to help you navigate this exciting yet challenging time. So grab your favorite cozy blanket and let's dive into the ups and downs of the homeschooling honeymoon phase. All right, guys, what do you think? I think all three of us have officially started our homeschool year. And if it hasn't happened yet, the end of that homeschool honeymoon phase is coming. So what are your initial thoughts on this? What are you thinking?
The first thing I'm thinking, and when I talk to new homeschoolers all the time, the first time you hit the end of that honeymoon phase, you immediately think something is wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh no, the world's coming to an end. It's wrong. And you want to change everything to try to fix it. And I think over time, I've come to realize that, yes, there might be some reassessment, some conversations, but also that it's not sustainable or even necessarily enjoyable to have that first week energy all year round.
Right.
That'll burn anybody out. So I think there's wisdom that comes with time. And if there's somebody listening who is a first year going through this, it's not you. It's just natural.
Right.
That's kind of my first thought.
Yeah.
We've kind of started to plan for the valleys. And so we learned a long time ago that we do best with a 4-day school week. We school on Mondays and Tuesdays and Thursdays and Fridays. And Wednesday is a chill day. And Saturday is a house tending day. Some people will do some catch up in the afternoon, like my high schoolers might do that. And that's how we roll. So when we started doing that, we actually, our honeymoon phase lasted basically until Thanksgiving. And then we had the excitement for Christmas. So we never hit a slump until, February, which is like homeschoolers
Typical.
everywhere hit that slump in February. And it was a total game changer for us. And then the other thing that we like to do is we like to plan a week off every 6th or 7th week. The reason I say is with the holidays coming, it's like 6 weeks for us instead of 7. But that is the other thing that we do. So when we didn't do that, we would hit burnout by mid-October. Right. We would be frustrated. We would be behind. We would feel behind. And one of my kids came to me this morning and he's like, I'm so afraid of getting behind. This is my first year doing high school courses. And I just can't. I can't get behind. And I looked at him and I was like, okay, well, you did great this week. So what makes you think you're going to get behind? He's like, there's just more to do. And so we pulled out his calendar and we mapped out the next 6 weeks. And then I showed him this whole week. I said, this isn't a vacation week. This is a balance everything out week. Yeah. And once you're caught up, the rest of it is your time to do what you want with. He's like, oh, that is amazing.
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of it is just knowing what you're capable of and what your kids are capable of.
And having a rhythm, I think, and falling and just falling into that and knowing that it's okay. So I do something similar to what Lisa was just saying, in that we schedule 6 weeks at a time and we take that 7th week off, or sometimes it's 7 weeks and we take the next week off, just however it works in the schedule. But having that as just a down week and knowing that that's coming really helps. And also, one thing that I do at the very beginning of the year is I take everything that we want to cover in the year and I break it up into 6-week terms, just to kind of spread it out over the year. But I do more during our homeschool honeymoon phase. I just naturally, everybody wants to do it. So you might as well plan for it and plan, to do all of that exciting stuff at the beginning of the year when everyone's in it and everyone's happy and like go, go, go. And then in like the November, December, like I plan for that to be a natural valley. And then February is also a natural valley. And so I don't worry about that when I'm starting to get, maybe a little bit overwhelmed or bogged down or whatever in October. Like, let's say, like, if I am starting to get burnt out in October, I'm like, it's all right. I've planned for this. We're good. So it's like, it helps to know that things are on the schedule for later. That just helps. That helps me when I'm planning. But you're right, Allie, when you're first year homeschooling, I think it's easy to fall into that trap of, because most of us were traditional schooled at least some point in our history. And so, so we're used to, like, now it's time for this subject. Now it's time for this subject. And you think that that's how it has to look all year round, when in reality, you learn over time, or if you're listening to us now, you can plan for it, and that you can plan for those valleys, and you can plan for the honeymoon phase to end, and be okay. Like, you're going to be okay.
Have you ever noticed that when we talk about honeymoon phases, we talk about it as something that is inevitably over, and we almost kind of like patronize people? Oh, it's the honeymoon phase. Don't worry, it'll end. With anything,
I love the honeymoon phase.
Whether it's marriage or a new puppy or homeschooling, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm totally the opposite. I am leaning into this, and I am wringing every ounce of joy out of the next couple of weeks that we can get.
Exactly.
And I'm taking this time to create extra connection between my kids and I, and extra excitement with the learning new things, because neuroscience has shown us that kids get dopamine when they learn new facts. So we want to give them as many dopamine hits as possible right here at the beginning of the school year when they're really excited, and make it amazing, 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 amazing. I mean, guys, I sent a kid back to bed at 5:30 this morning because they wanted to start school early.
Oh,
and I was like, no. 6:30 is as early as we get up and do school in this house.
Yeah.
So weird, right?
Right.
But then on the other level, dopamine hits fade really fast, but serotonin surges stay with you for a long time. And kids get serotonin primarily from connecting with their parents. And so we have this amazing opportunity in this honeymoon period each year to reestablish and re-strengthen that connection, that attachment, and give them that serotonin along with the dopamine, which actually propels them forward. They say that the experience that a kid has in kindergarten impacts their education all the way up through 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
So what we're doing during this honeymoon period, like, this is paving the way for the whole school year and beyond.
Yeah.
So wring every last ounce of joy out of it. Love it. Don't let any seasoned homeschooling mom who's having a rough year suck that joy out of it. Enjoy it.
Well, and I love how you're talking about suck the joy out of it. It's not get as many things in as you possibly can during this season. It's not about, oh, well, we've got the energy, so let's add Latin and let's do this and let's get this unit study, and that's not what it is, right? I love that you're pointing out how important it is to like go deeper and really enjoy and build on those times. As you guys were talking, we do something similar. We do a 10-week term, and then we have a exam week, and that exam week includes lots of field trips and just because we can days and things like that we love. But the other thing that I do is, it's very easy for me to like get going. And then eventually my body's like, wait, we've been going way too long. And I completely poop out. Right. And so part of our rhythm are the little things I do for myself every day and every week to make our homeschooling more sustainable and easy on myself, and help to give us connections and rhythms that get us that serotonin level connection. Yeah. So like, some of the things I do to help myself every day is at the end of the school day, all together, we pick up, I put our stuff up on the board for the next day. I put everything where it needs to be. Because if it's already out and already there and everyone knows and the kids know what we're doing and there's something exciting they want to do the next day, it's like we're already on that ledge, and it just takes a little blow to like get us over to do things. Yes. If I wake up and everything is a mess and I don't have the plan set and I don't know what's happening, the likelihood that we're actually going to get started and through our day is like slim to none. So I do things like that to help myself stay consistent and enjoy. And then we have little, I call them joy bubbles, but we build in little pieces of our day where we just enjoy each other. We do fun things. We call everyone to the table, to the homeschool room with a silly song. I think I've talked about this before, but we put on ABC 123 by the Jackson 5, and no matter where anybody is in our house, that is a sign that you put things away, and we start dancing and getting to the schoolroom. And the thing is, like, you can be having the worst day ever. You could be overwhelmed. Everyone could be exhausted, but it just takes one of you to be enjoying the music to shift the entire family. And then we come together. So I do as much as I can in the day-to-day to really make it easy on myself to find those moments of connection and to make consistency in our homeschool, whether our energy level is, initial honeymoon phase level, or it's like, ooh, it's October, February level. Make it as easy on myself as possible to stay consistent and enjoy each other through the process.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting that you like clean everything up and I mean, I don't find it interesting because it's totally your personality, but you put everything away. See, we kind of do the opposite. We leave everything out all week because, and they have a basket, like each kid has a basket where their things go, but I don't care if they're left out on the tables or on the, on our little console or anything, because my kids will just come in and they'll be like, I'm going to do some more math. And they'll just sit down and do more math. And then I'm like, okay, grab everything, pack a backpack of stuff to do. We've got a swim meet, to get to, and you've got to have stuff to do for the swim meet. And they'll be like, I'm going to bring it's always math. I don't know. Like, I'm going to bring my math, or I'm going to bring my book, that I'm reading through. And so, my kids have just kind of fallen into this rhythm of like, we do school anytime just because, and so we don't put it away at the end of the day. But even though I'll tell them okay, I'm done for the day. I'm done. I need to move on to this, that, or the other. So that, there's boundaries, right? And there is, but they can still they're welcome to still do math for fun because I've got a couple kids that like
Don't you love that the boundaries that you're setting with your kids are around when you're going to do school?
I am not doing any more math with you today. We are done.
Oh my gosh.
But it's part of our it's such an integrated part of our lifestyle now that, that's just how it is. And I have to tell them on Saturdays, I'm like, put the school baskets away. I want this house to look like we don't homeschool.
Oh my gosh.
And they're like, what?
I love that so much. That is, my kids enjoy our homeschool. We all enjoy it. We have so much fun and it's good stuff. But no, that's not happening in my house at all. My kids are like, cool, that's done. And they go work on their projects, and they always have projects going.
But that's school too. That is.
So but they're not going and grabbing their grammar book or their math.
I don't know why.
They're happy to do it when we're together, but they're not grabbing it. I think it's awesome. I love that homeschool gives you the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, my kids are crafting, or they're getting into the other stuff, or they're asking to do a spark schooling class, Rachel. Today we took a roll of toilet paper up the back hill. We have an acre, and it's like this big hill, and we mapped out the solar system using the toilet paper thing with the distance between the planets. And they went from the top of the orchard down to the bottom of the orchard to get from the sun all the way out to Neptune. And they're like, that's huge. And I was like, it was just so much fun. And they were trying to find pieces of fruit or leaves that could represent the different sizes of the planets. And that's what we do with our off time. There are no textbooks involved. The kids are running away from those. And I'm more like Allie. We hit company ready status, not OCD company ready status, but anybody can come join us and have a seat at the table by 5:00 every night, because we kind of need to end it because it is our lifestyle. And I want them to differentiate between yes, you have to learn these things, but you get to learn all this other stuff too. Because if they're struggling with a subject, I want them to have the freedom to know, hey, I did my part today, and I get to put it aside. Even though I don't love it, I did it. But now I get to move on to these other things that I love. And half the stuff they ask for, their older siblings are like, do they know that school? And I'm like, shh, stop.
No, don't tell. Yeah, we just space it out. I think we are comfortable now with spacing it out all day long. It was 6 o'clock last night, and one of my kids was like, "Oh, I haven't done my history yet, so I'm going to go do my work for history." And it's just like, but he likes to sleep in, and he like, his friend came over after school and wanted to play video games. And so he played video games with him. And then we went and ran an errand. And then he came back home and was like, "Oh, I haven't done this yet." And, so it's whatever works, I think, for your family, but just integrating homeschooling into your lifestyle, I think, is the main thing here. Is like, that's a way to, to really dive into the honeymoon phase and really make it fun. And in whatever you're doing, whatever works for your family, making it fun, having those connections with your kids, integrating it into your lifestyle. And just then when things start to get rough, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
You've planned for it. And you're ready to move through it, and that the valley is not forever, and it will
Amen.
yeah. And maybe that's
Thank
like,
God.
maybe we don't know that, like maybe that's when you feel it, when you're in it and you're hitting it, at least for the first time, you're like, okay, I have failed. It's time to put my kids back in school or whatever, like, well, I guess I'm not a homeschool mom after all, but it does, take it from us. It is just a valley, and you'll come out the other side with other
It took me like a
excitement.
decade to identify as a homeschool mom. Like, there's all these like proud homeschool moms out there. And I was like, yeah, we do school at home, because I felt like I didn't fit the mold, right? Like I really felt like I wasn't the homeschool mom who knew how to be fun or creative, because all the moms around me were starting the school year with these baskets of craft supplies, and they were excited to pull out the glitter. And like, I got hives just thinking about pulling out the glitter. Like, what on earth? And they're talking about these curriculums, and they're ordering boxes and thousands of dollars of homeschooling supplies. And we're not even talking about textbooks. We're talking about like lab projects and music projects and like all the extras. And they're like, yes, we get up every morning at 8 and we're homeschooling when dad comes home, and we're doing. And I was like, I can't do that. So I was like doing my own little thing in the corner. And it was years before I realized, well, that's homeschooling too.
Yeah.
Like, there's other ways to do it. And I love podcasts now because I can listen to other people's ideas, and I love experience too, because now I can go, well, that's not for us. Ooh, I like that. Let's try it.
Right.
Right. And so, even when you're listening to us, don't feel like you have to fit the mold. Like Rachel, they leave things out on purpose. Allie picks them up on purpose. I have the kids put them away because I'll go crazy if company shows up for dinner, or if I wake up in the morning for a quiet cup of coffee and there's nowhere to sit. And, I love that my kids know how to tidy up, but do I think it's the only way? Absolutely not.
Right.
And this is what I'm hearing here. And it's so beautiful. And I wish that a podcast like this had been around when I was starting, because it really did. It took me years to understand that what I was doing was just as valid as what somebody else was doing.
Yeah. And I think that might be why we hit the end of the honeymoon phase in the first place, is because we're not trusting our own intuition and leaning into what our family does best. And we're comparing ourselves to others and looking at that, and we're not measuring up to somebody else's standard. I remember the very first year where I really felt like I was a homeschool mom, like what you said, Lisa, like you finally felt like you've got it. Like, this is the way we do it. We didn't hit burnout that year. Like, I was like,
that's so true.
We didn't hit burnout. We never hit Susan Weisbauer says everyone feels like quitting homeschooling in November and February. And I'm like, it's March. What? We never hit it, and it was because I trusted myself, and I went with the peaks and valleys. I knew we would get to it. I knew we would finish. I had that past experience. And like you said, I wish that there was a podcast like this telling me that this was going to happen. And it's possible to do a homeschool year where you don't hit burnout. Yeah. But there's still valleys and peaks, but there's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say burnout and having a lull in energy and motivation are not the same, right? And I agree with you. When you're hitting burnout, it's because you're not following what your family needs. You're not putting that joy and connection and honoring the people in your home, or even yourself. I see that so much. Homeschooling moms not honoring themselves and who they are. Like Lisa, you're saying you put it away because it drives you crazy, right? Like, but honoring that as opposed to making it ramp up and make you miserable, is another thing. I think everyone's going to have the lulls. Having systems in place really help you to smooth those out. But yes, it always goes back to doing what's right for your family and finding that joy and connection together, for sure.
Yeah.
I love that, because I've never burnt out since like those first 2 years, maybe three. I'm trying to remember, but we do hit slumps. I will say the February, the end, and for us it's end of February, because we take that nice like month-long break from well, actually it feels like it's like 2 months, because it's like from November, like from Thanksgiving all the way to after New Year's. But we're still doing school, where you just like, I plan a lot of fun things and activities and trips and stuff. So it doesn't feel the same, like we've broken out of our rhythm.
Yep.
And so I think that when you are attuned to what your kids need, because I like that, and they like homeschooling in the summer. It's so weird to me, but they're like, like we're gonna be inside anyway with the air conditioner, like hiding from the heat. We want more free time in spring and fall.
Yeah.
Like that's what they want. So I'm like, okay, that's great. And I'm like, I hear you. Let's try it. And if it doesn't work this year, we'll do it differently next year. And that to me is the essence of keeping the honeymoon phase. Like, be willing to try it, and you're never failing. You're just learning. You're gathering data to make a different decision the next year.
I love that. You're never failing. You're just gathering data. Love it.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever started something, whether it be a curriculum or a rhythm or something like that, and it was like real, like, or you planned too much or something, and you had to like scrap something, because when that honeymoon phase, like how do you know it's not working and you need to scrap it, or it's just you're hitting a slump?
Oh, if my relationship with my child is being altered by the thing, and I cannot clearly see the goal or the path that gets us closer, not only to what we're supposed to be teaching with that thing, but to what our family mission is and who we are and what kind of relationship we want, there is nothing worth that.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing worth that. So everyone has a bad day. So you don't throw it out the window after one bad day. But if there is something, we have a clear mission for our family. We have a mission statement. We have a clear idea of who we want to be as a family, who we want our children to be as people, and what we want our relationships to be. That's my dividing line.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and we've had like curriculum where it's like, oh, that's not the best option, but we finish it, or we've had, and then we do something different, right? Gathering data. But once it crosses that line, it's out. It's not worth it at all.
So with you on that one. So for us, I'll get rid of it for two reasons. One, it derails the piece of our home. Mm. I'm talking about like the internal piece, not the external piece. Like, go ahead and whine, whatever. Say you hate something. I mean, I took geometry, and that was like me that whole year. Like algebra just about did me in high school, and I hated it, but I did it, right? So there's times where, and sometimes we'll say to the kids, I get it, but we got to learn it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So I'm talking about the internal piece. So it is relational. And then the other time I'll get rid of it is if it's not something that is presenting information in a way that my kid can retain. I'm not going to waste their time or mine trying to force them to learn in a style that's not suited to them. Because the whole reason we homeschool is for the freedom to teach them in the way that they learn best. Right. We also teach them to learn in other ways, but there are just some ways some people can't take in information optimally. And it's just not worth that. But I'll always kind of do like a debrief or an exit interview with them. Hey, what was it about this that didn't work? What could we try differently next time? What did you like about it? And then when we look at new curriculum options for them, I'll ask them those questions. So, hey, what are your favorite things about the curriculum you love? Do you remember any curriculum you didn't like? Where does this one line up? Because I'm teaching them. And I kind of love those moments where we get to toss something, because they learn that if something's not serving their purpose and their goals, it's okay to pick something else up instead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love that.
And learning how you learn is the greatest gift you can give them, because there's nothing we can teach them today that's going to cover the jobs or the AI or whatever is coming in the future. So knowing how you learn and being able to go out and replicate that in any circumstance is going to serve them always.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love that. Yeah. And we've had similar circumstances or curriculum that didn't work or ways I tried to, do things and shifted. Sometimes I will still use, if I've paid money for a curriculum and I'm like, you know what, I don't want to buy something new. Like this was expensive. And so I'll change it. And I will still use the curriculum for as maybe a spine and like whatever it says it should cover. But I don't use the materials that came with it, or I don't use what came with it. I just kind of go and instead of supplementing the curriculum, I just take all that stuff that I would have supplemented and like that's now the curriculum, right? Like that's now the way that I'm teaching it, because I want to still get some use out of it and and be able to benefit from it in some way and still teach my kids, but the way that they present the information, the way they suggest that you use it, the way that it was made and created, throw that out, but keep the meat, keep the meat of it and still use the information just in a totally different way. And then I'll consign it or something later afterwards.
Make it work for you. That's at the end of the day, it keeps going back to do what works for you.
Yeah. And don't be afraid.
Family in your homeschool.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to do that, because like the curriculum's not the thing that
the boss.
It's not the boss. It's not the boss. You're the boss.
Yep. You're the boss.
Yeah. You're the boss. Anything else you guys want to share on this topic? Like, is there anything that I've missed or that you've been thinking about? Like, any other perspectives or angles you want to hit this from?
I think at the end of the day, just remember you are the boss and you get to do what works best for you. And that honeymoon phase isn't about getting as much in there. It's about enjoying each other and capitalizing on that joy, and then get some systems in to prolong it and do what works for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfectly.
I love that. That was a perfect like tie it up in a bow summary of today's episode. So thank you all so much for being here and joining us on the Homeschool Perspective. We always love to hear your perspectives. Please share those with us over on Instagram. Check out our website and for all of the ways that you can connect with us. And we will see you next time.